So then just 2 days after our last video where we were talking about what's going wrong at Bristol City, Dean Holden has been sacked as Bristol City manager. And I'm joined again by Matt today to just discuss what really needs to happen next, manager-wise, player-wise in the summer, and just everything needs to happen in the next few seasons to get us back fighting for promotion. So Matt, firstly, thanks for joining me again today. And what were your first thoughts then when the news came out yesterday that after obviously the Reading defeat, 6 defeats on the bounce, Dean Holden was sacked as Bristol City manager?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me again, Ben. We said it, didn't we, the last time around, that we thought that following the Watford game, unless there was a really big improvement, then Dean was under pressure. Once you listen to Steve Lansdown's interview on Radio Bristol on Monday evening, it was clear that Dean was under pressure and needed a result. And I thought they started off okay last night. Thought there was more intensity there. But again, it developed into a game that wasn't particularly enjoyable to watch, which is unfortunately has been something you could say about a lot of the games that we've had under Dean Holden. And a 2-0 defeat, it was inevitable. And the Peeps in the Podcast Bone show last night, and while we were on air, we were sort of saying, look, this is going to happen tonight. There's no way that they're going to stay, because, as I say, the performances, results have been bad. And obviously the news broke at about 11 o'clock. Not a particularly long statement, was it? It was kind of, no, I suppose, fairly par for the course now, where they thank the manager for what he's done and wish him all the best, and that's it. And so we're on to a new era, mate. Yeah.
It definitely was expected, wasn't it? As I said, 6 losses on the bounce, and it's not just the losses, because you can lose games but play well, but we haven't really been playing well either, have we?
I don't think we've played well all season, if I'm honest, Ben. Even in those early games, we got results, but the performances, I don't think I can honestly say I've witnessed a 90 minutes of good front foot dominant performance this season. Even in the cup against Northampton, which we won comfortably, Northampton were actually pretty decent early on. So it's a shame. I couldn't speak highly enough. Yeah, Portsmouth, yeah. I couldn't speak highly enough of Dean Holden. I think as a man, he's a really, really good character. He's a wonderful human, I think people have described him before. But fundamentally, it wasn't working, was it? And people were putting on social media last night, it's the players, they've let him down. Yeah, they have, but you don't sack 15, 20 players, you sack the head coach. And unfortunately, it was a step too far, a game too far last night.
Yeah, so obviously, as sad as it is that he has gone, and he's obviously a really nice bloke, and he wasn't getting enough out of the players, and I think it was definitely time for a change. But now we have the options of so many managers out there, but who are you looking to get in, and who do you think would actually want to come to Bristol City in a time like this?
I think your second question there, Ben, is the really important one. I think it's about who would want to come to us and work within the structure that we've got. And as fans, none of us know exactly what that structure is. We don't know just how much of an involvement Mark Ashton has in recruitment, in day-to-day football matters. I don't believe he picks the team or anything like that, but I certainly think he has a majority voice in a lot of the recruitment. When you start to talk about the names that probably all Bristol City fans want, the likes of Eddie Howe or Frank Lampard, which sounds really fanciful because their last jobs were at Premiership clubs, albeit I know Bournemouth got relegated. But why not? We've got a fantastic stadium.
Yep.
We've got a really good support base. We've got an unbelievable academy and now training ground coming into play for next season. So we should be aiming. Paul on the podcast last night said, you shoot for the stars. And we should. But I don't think we will. I think we'll end up with someone like Michael Appleton from Lincoln, who's already being linked and gets linked every time we have a managerial position.
Yep.
Partly, I think, because he's friends with Mark Ashton, if you believe the rumours. Russell Martin's name's been mentioned. The Cowley brothers' names have been mentioned.
Yeah.
We don't want someone coming in who's at lower league level and hasn't achieved anything, as in Appleton or Martin. And we don't want someone like the Cowleys who, yes, did well at lower league level, but when they stepped up, have been sacked by Huddersfield, who are doing worse than us. So Steve Lansdown really needs to look at it and decide, what do I want? How do I appoint an equivalent Pat Lam in terms of experience? I suppose there's not too many Pat Lams in the football world that aren't the likes of, proper managers. We're never going to get Jose's and Peps and stuff, but he needs to get an experienced manager. We can't take a gamble. And yeah, I don't know. We said off air, you said to me, Ben, you're looking forward to the next 6 weeks of names being banded around, and we end up with Keith Downing and Paul Simpson. And that wouldn't surprise any of us, would it?
No, it wouldn't. Obviously, it's just seeming like it's going to be the same as last time. That we've seen people on Twitter saying that, likes of Steve Lansdown and stuff, saying they're wanting to go for an experienced manager this time. But again, they said that last time, and we ended up with Dean Holden. So who would be with all the names being banned around, you've got Paul Cook, you've got Eddie Howe, which has been mentioned as some fans would like him. But who do you think your dream next manager at Ashton Gate?
Mine would be Eddie Howe with Jason Tyndall as his assistant. I think we need to clean out all of the infrastructure that we've got there. The coaching team that are there. I think we bring in a completely new sort of new voices. And Steve Lansdown talked about this after Lee Johnson. He wanted a new broom to sweep clean, as they say, and it didn't happen. So I personally think it needs to be a complete refresh. As I say, I'd love Eddie Howe, but I think Eddie Howe he's already been linked with Celtic and Crystal Palace. So maybe that is one that won't get us. And then my second choice would be Paul Cook, without a shadow of a doubt, because I think he's got a reputation for playing good football. He has achieved promotion. He has done well to a degree at this level. Wigan were under severe financial sort of situation. So yeah, it would be those two for me, mate. And I'm not really looking beyond that. But then I only wanted Chris Hughton, and that didn't happen. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'd say you, mate, at the moment.
I reckon I could do a better job than a lot of people have had in the last few years. But obviously, there's been over the last, obviously when Dean Holden was announced, and now again, now we've had the names of Frank Lampard, Eddie Howe as well, which personally I don't think they'll happen, because you've got a team like Bristol City who you could say on a downfall, and then you've also got clubs like Crystal Palace who are on an up. Celtic were one of the best clubs in the UK and even playing Europa League football. So why do you think some of the managers like that would choose Bristol City over one of the big clubs like Palace or your Celtics?
Yeah, I think it's how you sell it. It's take them and show them what we've got in terms of stadium, in terms of the academy setup, and as I say, the training ground, which is going to be right up there with some of the best in the country. And it's a bit of a joke, I've obviously I'm a lot older than you, mate, and we've often been described as a sleeping giant. We are at best a championship club at the moment, but the infrastructure and everything is there to take us that next step. So you need to sell it as a project to one of those managers to say, look, we want you to come in and build a dynasty for the next kind of 10, 15 years. And maybe with that right kind of sales technique, get the right person, you could do that. I think Paul Cook would walk from his home. I don't know if he still lives on the Merseyside, but I think he would walk down the M6 and the M5 to get the job. Eddie Howe, I think, is, as you're saying, is probably one of those that's probably a little bit too fanciful. But if you don't try, you don't get. And we don't know how much truth there was, Ben, in the rumours about Steven Gerrard. There was so much talk about it that you can't think that perhaps they did speak to him. You just think that there was something in it. But my worry, as I say, is that we go for someone just not up to the level that's needed in the championship. And the names that are being banded about already just aren't that, and won't get people wanting to renew season tickets next season.
Yeah, You mentioned there the academy sort of thing and what we actually have at a club like Bristol City. And we saw obviously Brian Tinian on Three Peeps yesterday. He was talking about we have one of the academies that can fight up with the Premier League clubs as well. And if worse comes to worse that we don't get a manager in by the end of the season and possibly we are down there at the end of the season and maybe even go down to League One, do you think the whole club could be knocked off by that and the managerial appointment could be knocked off by that, the academy and all of that?
100%. Yeah, 100%. You won't attract the top quality managers or head coaches that we're talking about if you're playing League One football. You just won't. So you then kind of start over again. You don't attract the same caliber of players. Not that I necessarily think that our recruitment's been great, but it's imperative that we stay in the Championship this season. I personally would have gone with Brian Tinney and Gary Probert being in charge to the end of, until we make an appointment. I was going to say end of the season, but I don't think we can wait to the end of the season. I think they really need to get their work done now.
That was going to be the next question.
I don't think Mike Ashton's been doing his job if he's not already been sounding people out, Ben. I really don't, because we've seen the performances, like I said, the last 6 weeks. They should have been having conversations with the agents of, it's not a nice thing to do because Dean was in a job, but they should have been sounding out the likes of Eddie Howe or Frank Lampard or Paul Cook to know, right, let's get it done.
Yeah. Do you think that, you obviously said that it needs to be done ASAP. Do you think it definitely does need to be done by the end of the season? Because as you said, we're on terrible form at the moment. And personally, I don't think a lot's going to change even with the new manager because we still got the same players. With the recruitment we've had in the last few years, I don't see us recruiting any big players that can help us push for promotion next season anyway. So do you think it really does need to be done quickly, this appointment, rather than the last few times where it took quite a long time to get in Lee Johnson and Dean Holden?
Yeah, I really do. You really got to look at Cardiff, Ben. Cardiff were below us. Neil Harris wasn't winning games. I think they were 15th at the time. Mick McCarthy's come in. I think they're unbeaten in 6. They're 7th, just outside the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, if 6 weeks ago we'd been doing this and Mick McCarthy was available, I wouldn't have been thrilled by that thought. But I bet there's not many Cardiff fans that are questioning it now. So for me, I absolutely think
they put them in the top 4 or top 6. Sorry, or
did
something.
it? I thought it was 7th.
Somewhere near.
But they're very close to it. Yeah. So for me, mate, I think they need to get the appointment. Needs to be the right appointment, and I suppose actually, what is the right appointment? Who knows? Chris Hughton hasn't set the world alight at Notts Forest, although they're starting to turn things around. But we don't know what sort of mess Notts Forest we're in. So personally, for me, I would. If we've not got an appointment after the Barnsley game, before the next game, and that's probably Tuesday or Wednesday next week, I don't know without looking, then again, I think we're dragging our feet, and I think it could really cost us. I do. I think they need to get somebody in, new ideas, a sort of, a stronger coaching ethic. And that's not being disrespectful to Dean in terms of the work that he did, but we just weren't tactically very good. And that's again why it worries me that Paul Simpson and Keith Downing are in charge, because I think they've been mainly the ones doing the coaching. Yeah. So what's going to change from that? So that's why I think it's important to get someone in, new ideas, let them bring their own people in. And I know this is really difficult times because of COVID and the financial side of things, but I'll tell you something, it'll be financially more crippling if we get relegated than it would be if we manage to stay up. And if we stay up, then the summer we've got a lot of players out of contract, so you then build again, and we see what happens. I mean, you see clubs like Brentford having to do that season on season, selling 2-3 of their best players. So yeah, I think it's a massive in my lifetime, Ben, and that's too many years now than I care to admit. This to me feels like the most important one that we've had. Because I feel if we get this wrong and we get relegated, fans will just stay away. And once you lose fans, it's very difficult to get them back.
Yeah, my dad was saying yesterday, we were watching the Red in the first half. I think it was after the first goal. He was like, Ben, we're not renewing next season. But I think I'm going to be able to I think I'll be able to
Of course you will.
persuade
Yeah,
him.
sure. But Ben, seriously, I mean, obviously I know your dad, and both of you have followed him for years.
Yeah,
I know plenty of people exactly the same. People that have gone for 30, 40 years and are saying, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not
and
paying
if
the
we
money
go
because it's
down,
rubbish.
because you think, for me, my dad, and an extra ticket, that's £600, I think, a season.
Yeah.
League One, sorry, we go down. I reckon we'll only be having 15,000 in a 27,000 seater stadium, if that.
Season ticket wise, you'll be lucky to do probably 9,000,
5.
10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably get a few more than that, but dependent on the appointment again. But it's like I said to you the other day when you sort of said off air, I think that actually if we got relegated, but we were doing really well in that division,
Yeah.
honestly, it just isn't about that. It's about the teams you're playing and the football that you get to see. I don't want to go back to watching what I watched for so many years. So,
and we could do a
it's vital.
Ipswich or a Sunderland, and we could be watching our
Exactly.
football for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and who's to say you don't go even further down?
Yeah.
Because once you start that slope, in, we know
And
COVID.
as we said, we're going to be attracting less better managers, worse players as well. Players will be leaving, and it's just going to go downhill if we do get relegated at the end of the season.
Academy prospects, if they've got options,
Yeah.
Even if if we get relegated and we're then in the same division as Bristol Rovers, people will look at that and think, do you know what? I'll go to the Rovers because I live that side of town, or because that's who I supported. Whereas at the moment, we're probably attracting players because we're Championship and because of the facilities we've got. So yeah, make no bones about it. We really can't afford to be relegated this season. So they have to make a good appointment and a quick appointment, in my view.
Yeah. So you've talked a bit about the managerial situation at the moment. Let's move on to the players, because you obviously mentioned just then a lot of players going out of contract in the summer. A lot of players have been rumoured to be looking to move in January and then probably in the summer. What do you think needs to happen in the summer? Firstly, let's give who we think needs to go in the summer, and who then after, who you'd like to bring in, a few names that you'd like to see at Ashton Gate next season.
In terms of players that I think we would let go if we're still in the Championship and we want to push on next season. It's a personal thing, and I know all fans will have their view on players, but I wouldn't be renewing Jack Hunt. I wouldn't be renewing Tommy Rowe. Tommy Rowe, maybe I would, because I think as a utility player, he's quite good. Nathan Baker, I would be looking at as a pay-as-you-play kind of contract, because he just spends so much time out injured. I'm trying to think which other players. Obviously, Famara looks like he will go because he's not signed that contract, and the performances he's put in since the transfer window have closed have just been shocking. So yeah, not for me. Obviously, you've got Liam Walsh out of contract. We've not seen him. I'd love him to stay because I think of how well he's done. But again, I think that will be dependent on where we are in the division. I think Andy Vyman might have another year, maybe. I can't think he's out of contract, mate, to be fair. But
if he's down, if we're down there, though, I can see him moving to a team like Forest, maybe one of them.
Any of those teams, but teams that are in the Championship, because again, your
wage budget, quite well.
Yep. Your wage budget drops, and that's the thing with it, your TV revenue. And as I say, the big one, season tickets, the sales for season tickets will drop.
Definitely.
In terms of players coming in, I think we need to go back to trying to sign younger, hungry players. And I don't mean teenage players. We've got a very good academy and we'll bring some of those through. But I mean
your Joe
the kind of 24s. Well, yeah, I mean, Joe, I don't think Joe's ripping up any trees at Luton, but
no.
Someone like, and he wasn't given a chance, but the likes of Sam Smodics, or players that are doing very well.
He's smashing it at Posh at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah. So players that are doing very well, and it's what we did really well when Steve Cottrell took over. We then went and bought the best players in our league. Now, we can't do that in the Championship because you're talking about clubs that have come out of the Premiership. Yeah. But you can go and get some very good players, and we should be looking at the best players in League One and seeing what we can do with them. You look at
Brentford Ivan Toney. Did it with Ivan Toney? Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So yeah, it's who knows who's available, but as I say, the key thing, Ben, will be which division we're in. And then from a management point of view, if you get the likes of Eddie Howe or Frank Lampard, which again, I'll say it again, sounds fanciful, but if you do, players will want to come and play for them. So yeah, it's a big appointment.
Yeah, we've talked about the players now. We've talked about the appointment. Now, this whole thing can go two ways, really, can't it? We can get in Eddie Howe, and we can stay in the championship. We can bring some good players in the summer and be mid-table, fighting for promotion next season. On the other hand, we get not as good as manager. I don't want to throw any names around, and we also sell a lot of people. We don't get many people in like we did this year, and then we could be fighting in the relegation zone from the start next season. Which do you think's more likely with what's happening at City at the moment?
I don't know. You'll be asking me for the lottery numbers next. You just don't know, mate. You just don't know, because if you get the right managerial appointment now, if we stay up, if the injured players that we've hung a lot of hope on, if they're back and fit from the start of the season, if we review that whole thing around the medical, because yet again, now Joe Williams has got a hamstring injury.
He was out yesterday,
I think Gary Hours may have mentioned it on Radio Bristol last night, but there are too many of them not to be something's not right from a training sort of setup or the pitches or whatever it may be. But if you can get those players fit and we're in the championship, you can then sign players of the caliber of an Alfie Mawson, a Ryan Sessegnon, players that may be an equivalent Tammy Abraham that we had and did so well for us. Then who knows? You can potentially hit the ground running. But we need to develop a style of play and a way that Lee Johnson used to say it, that he'd be able to go and watch the under 15s or the under 18s or the under 23s, and they would play in the same way as the first team would.
Yeah.
And we've lost that. We don't seem to have any. I hate to keep saying it, but DNA. We don't know what our DNA is. We don't know what our style is. Are we a long ball game? We did a lot of that last night, but then we weren't running onto the flicks. Yeah, there are lots of things like that.
Some days you can't win it.
Yeah, but even when he did last night, we didn't have runners in behind him, so it was a bit of a strange one. Why play it up to him?
Like Andy Vyman and when we had Bobby Reid a few years ago.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A few years ago we did play that high press. We had a lot of energy in the team. We just don't at the moment. So it is one of those situations, Ben, where we are literally ripping it up and starting again. And hopefully it's not too painful and we can stay in the championship and we get the right manager and we can then get our recruitment right. What I will say is, it worries me that from a recruitment point of view, we got rid of Mervyn Day, I think was head of recruitment. I don't know who else is involved now, but Mark Ashton seems to be very involved in that. I don't know why Mark Ashton thinks that he's a football recruitment specialist. So they need to look at all of that. Well, they need to look at it. His record isn't great on that front. So hopefully Steve Lansdown will look at all of that and he gets this appointment right. And the appointment is someone that isn't seen by fans as a yes man. And that's definitely been the case, even to a certain extent with Steve Cottrell, because he was friends with Keith Dahl, who was on the board at the time. I think he was chairman at the time. But even with Steve Cottrell, there was a view of that. But certainly with Lee Johnson and certainly with Dean Holden, fans have seen it as a yes man, and he will do what Mark Ashton or Steve Lansdown want him to do. And obviously they're the owner. Steve's the owner. So yeah, your manager should do what he wants you to do, but you want someone that can stand up and say, this is what I want. This is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
And some of the names being talked about, I don't think will do that. So we wait and see, Ben. We wait and see. I don't know if I'm excited about it or if I'm just a little bit resigned to it being another situation where
just seems
we were
like
so excited last season, weren't we? Well, we so thought, again, I referenced on the Three Peeps podcast that I did an interview for Points West last summer, where they expected Chris Hughton to be appointed, and because it was the weekend, they wouldn't have had anyone to cover it if it had been announced on the Saturday. So we did an interview on the Friday, and I had to act as if he got the job. And I felt brilliant. I thought, well, obviously they must know something to be doing this, and obviously it all fell apart. Dean Holden got appointed, and we know where the story ended, don't we?
Yes, ended in what has been a terrible run of form, and as we were saying earlier, it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon, does it?
Who would you want, Ben? If you could go out and get, I don't mean anyone, because we know we're not going to get Jurgen Klopp. We know we're not going to get. We might get Ollie Solskjaer, but we know we're not going to get Pep. But if you could speak to Steve Lansdown and say, "Look, Steve, this is who you need to get," what would you be going for?
Well, I think we need to go for a different approach to what we have in the last two, because it obviously hasn't worked. I think we need a bit of experience, but a bit like Eddie Howe. Like, he's got experience, he's got teams promoted, he's played at the highest, he's managed at the highest level. But still knows the modern game, if you know what I mean by that. I think Eddie Howe, or as you said, Paul Cook, one of those two is probably the ones I would probably go for at the moment, and that's kind of realistic. But just what we've done in the recent years, I just don't see us getting one of the big top names that we know can get teams promoted and actually do something as a manager.
The worry is, again, if rumours were to be believed, Paul Cook was interviewed last time around. Paul Cook's out of work still, obviously, and there may be reasons for that. He might have had job offers and decided it wasn't for him. But there's a chance he might think, do you know what? No, you didn't want me first time around. Why would I want to go for it now? So
exactly.
We don't know. We don't know, do we? As I say, I just hope that we get it sorted quickly, because we definitely can't afford to wait 6-7 weeks. And the problem with that is we might pick up a couple of results, because you might, I'm not going to say I think either of these two will turn it around, but you might get a lucky win or whatever, pick up a couple of results. And the worst thing that could happen for me is that, a bit like with Dean Holden, he did okay,
and then they just get given the job.
That's the answer. Yeah. And it never works. And Paul Simpson's managed, Keith Downing have managed. They've not been successes where they've managed. Why will it change now?
Hopefully the board now see that it hasn't worked once. So let's actually go out and get a good, experienced manager. But yeah, thanks for joining me yet again today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me again, Ben.
Hopefully we can turn around our form and get an experienced manager that can hopefully get us to the top flight in seasons to come. But I guess we'll have to see.
Have me on a game when Eddie Howe gets appointed, mate. All right.
I will. I'll definitely get you on again soon. Hopefully that's not talking about which away grounds we're looking forward to in League One.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, we had them all lined up, mate, didn't we? We were all gonna. Yeah, I'd agree with your dad that we would go League away to certain games, but exactly. But yeah. All right, Ben. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, and thanks all for watching again. I'll probably make a video when this managerial announcement's out. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching, and come on, you Reds.